Flags are early. We are 6 minutes post time. Good luck.
We have to quit meeting like this. But since I have you here, why don't we just run over a couple little small things that I think Cedar Fair and possibly Six Flags could do to help make the parks run a little bit more smooth and a little bit more efficiently in 2024. This holiday season was one to remember for just about every theme park down here in Southern California, right? Record numbers, record attendance. That was kind of the talk of the town as far as local vloggers and friends of mine and people that were just visiting the park, people that were visiting from out of the country. Some people getting their first taste of Knott's Berry Farm, Magic Mountain, Universal, and Disneyland. And the general consensus was it was crowded. So with that in mind, I kind of had a few ideas that Cedar Fair, Six Flags in general, could maybe implement to maybe prevent that from being so overwhelming of a narrative in the busy season. So I'm going to start outside the park, obviously, and this goes quadruple for Knott's, and that is start with the parking situation. Look, I know the Knott's has their weird routines that they run, and I've been going to the park routinely now for over 2 years, and it's still a guessing game when you get there. You don't know what lot could be open at what possible time, and I think it just comes down to Knott's, whatever work you need to get done running with those carts, the gardeners or whatever, you got to get that done before you open that main lot at 9 a.m. Open the lot on both sides and let people go in from either from north or south, and let people make the decision on their own whether they want to pay for the premium parking or not. Stop forcing people to go all the way up Grand and basically waiting in lines in the marketplace for people that are turning into that parking and just as lost as everybody else, and having to ask question after question just to kind of get everything straightened out while everybody else is waiting in line behind them. And then whenever you get to the end, you're at the premium parking lot and they're trying to funnel you in there to get $50 out of you when all you wanted to do was just park in the main lot. Knott's. Simplify, man. Open the main lot and only the main lot on weekdays. Both sides. Open the south lot over by the hotel on weekends. You only open La Palma and Western for overflow. That's it. And just call it a day. And then you obviously always keep your marketplace open and possibly get a little bit less confusing signage. It's tough because you've got arrows and things pointed all over the place, just in general directions. And that little split between Grand and Beach is hard enough to figure out if you're a first timer as is, because it's only the far right lane that splits into that area. So just let's try to figure out the parking situation and go from there, you know. Also, security on the main lot. That lot is open to the public. You can walk right off of Beach and right off of La Palma, right onto that parking lot. And I actually do sometimes see Buena Park PD in there now. On busier days, but I think the lot needs a roaming security guard and possibly even fences to kind of separate it from the general public, because there's been a lot of cases of break-ins at night. During Scary Farm there was quite a few, and not only that, but they need to regulate the parking a little bit better. I joke a lot about that parking lot being the Wild West, and it's kind of similar to how it is at Six Flags now too, but people just park basically wherever they want, in non-parking spots, wherever they can get closest to that entrance, because it's such a far walk anyway. You got to kind of do your best to regulate that. And I hate to say it, and I hate to be a party pooper, but that kind of needs to happen, because it's a bad first impression for people that have never been here, and it kind of sets an example of you can't control your crowd. You can't control your guests. So this year, it was the same for pretty much every theme park with the overcrowding. That's fantastic for business. But this, I think, kind of proved that, unfortunately, Knott's needs to cap their ticket sales. Whether they do or not, I do not know. This year didn't look like they did. The entire week after Christmas, they were consistently overcrowded with 2.5, almost sometimes 3 hour lines for basically every ride, hour lines for food, and it was just, it wasn't a good look, and a lot of people left with a bad taste in their mouth. And we want them to come back, and we want repeat business, and we want to set a good example for people that don't spend as much time at the farm and understand that if you come in the off season, you can walk on to everything. that's not the point I think we need to try to make here. I think Knott's needs to set a really good example for how it can handle the busy seasons. What it does in the summer actually is okay. It's crowded there during the summer, but it doesn't feel as overcrowded as it did this year. If it's a money thing, if they're just trying to get as much money as they can through the turnstiles, this sounds really bad, but maybe you inflate the prices, a la how Disneyland does. I think Universal does the same thing. Raise the prices a little bit, but you got to cap it off. And if you can get to a net zero, then I think you still win. But there's got to be something there. There's no reason why every line for everything in that park is averaging an hour long. The park's not big enough to begin with. People aren't going to want to come back and stand in those lines for hours on end and spend their whole day doing that. And while we're on the subject of long lines, this is in no way, shape, or form bashing the employees. I think the people in general that work at this park at Knott's Berry Farm are fantastic. I've never had a bad interaction with any of them. In fact, it's been exactly the opposite. But I think as far as ride efficiency, loading and unloading, it's got to speed up. Whether you're always running 2 trains or 3 trains in some cases, or even doubling up the ops on the loading ramp in general, that's got to speed up. None of the rides at Knott's Berry Farm are Omnimover, so it relies heavily on how fast the ops can get people on and off these rides. Not to mention, a lot of these rides really don't. The trains themselves don't eat big portions of the line, like except for, say, Silver Bullet. Most of them load 16 to 20. I think Silver Bullet loads like 32 or something. But I think loading and unloading efficiently is going to help a lot. I was watching a video from a YouTuber, I'm sure you know him, David from Fresh Baked. He was kind of just going over comparisons between Disneyland and a lot of these and these other parks, and that was a big critique that why don't you just hear it from the messenger here?
It's the people on the ground. The people on the ground make the experience here at Disneyland separate and different. Both just in terms of guest relations, but also literal operations. At both the Universal and at Knott's, but specifically Knott's. Knott's is worse than Universal in this regard. Very sort of casual approach to getting guests on and off the vehicles, to just cycling guests. There's no urgency. Everything takes forever. Ordering food takes forever, and I just that's why you see these incredibly long lines everywhere you go, mostly because it's not very efficient. Whereas at Disneyland, they are very good. They are very good at their jobs operationally. They have it down to a science.
This guy knows his stuff. He understands how theme parks work. He's mainly a Disney guy, but he understands the business, and I think he's spot on here. You can only fix what you can fix, if that makes any sense. And I think because these rides aren't going to load and unload themselves, I think that the ops should just, I think maybe whether it's a training thing or not, since Accelerator reopened, I've noticed that it runs one train and it takes forever to unload and load the next group. Whether it's a safety thing or what, I think that kind of needs to happen. There are some rides at Magic Mountain that will load and unload people real fast. Granted, that's kind of their forte. A lot of these ride ops, they're there, and that's boom, boom, boom. And a lot of those roller coasters eat up a lot of the line as well. A lot of those trains can hold a lot of people, and I think that's kind of what prevents some days from Magic Mountain getting overbearingly crowded with the lines. Now, that's not to say there aren't 140-minute waits for some rides sometimes, but I think that sort of efficiency should be carried on over to Knott's Berry Farm, and that's something that I think Knott's, from an operations standpoint, kind of lacks. And also the lines for food were ridiculous as well. This can be helped with mobile ordering. I don't think Magic Mountain does mobile order yet, or maybe they do, I'm not sure, but Knott's doesn't, and Knott's can benefit greatly from mobile ordering. This is something that obviously has needed to happen for a couple of years now, and they've already, Cedar Fair Six Flags have already said that they're going to improve the app this year. They're probably going to combine the Six Flags and the Cedar Fair apps into one, and hopefully add the mobile order, and hopefully, since we're on the app, do a better job at letting guests know the ride wait times while they're outside the park. Knott's only giving you the wait times when you're in the park is kind of bad form. Not to mention they don't give you the correct ones ever. I think those archaic Velcro signs that they have outside all the rides needs to go. They either just need to not have those at all, or implement a more up-to-date system. Whether you don't need to have it on every ride, but maybe do like Magic Mountain does, where they have, and Universal also does this, where they have the wait times on a big screen that kind of scrolls back and forth at a couple places in the park. Maybe in one in Boardwalk and then one over by Ghost Rider. Just so people know, and it's a little bit easier to update that way. Yeah, but with the app, hopefully with the improvements of the app, I'm hoping that at least Knott's can implement the ADA registration through the app. I think with Disneyland you can do it online, so you don't have to wait for an hour at guest services. Not only is guest services kind of hidden back behind Ghost Rider and the bakery and stuff, it's hard to find if you don't know where it is. Then you got to wait in that line with everybody else to get your ADA pass, which kind of defeats the purpose. Whether you need the pass or not is beside the point. I think implementing more things through the app that aren't necessary to be done in person is going to help with the efficiency of the park overall. There are some things that Knott's is kind of stuck in the past with that I think it's kind of time to move forward and maybe take other theme park examples in this regard. The app is very important. That's where most people get their information. It's how a lot of people are going to decide whether they're going to go to the park at all that day. So if you can give them as much information as you can before they even make the decision to come, I think you're going to probably profit greatly from that. So whether that's maybe more live feed cameras inside Knott's Berry Farm, maybe 2 or 3 more of those so people can see more parts of the park. One in Fiesta Village, one over by Ghost Rider, and one in Camp Snoopy. Boom, boom, boom. That way people can see from different vantage points. Disneyland has a roaming camera that kind of goes around. It's far away. I think it's on a hotel across Coachella or something, but they have one. And then allowing people to see the ride wait times before they go to the park. I think if you have the app, I don't think you should have to be inside the park to be able to see the wait times for these rides. Anyway, that's just a couple small things I thought I could start off the new year with, just kind of throwing it out there. I don't know if any of these would ever come true. I don't really know all that much other than my own experience and what I see from Reddit pages and Facebook groups and outside sources like that. You can gather a lot of information, be it opinion or news from these places. And I think these are something that should be taken heavily into consideration. Whether they happen or not, that's yet to be seen. Knott's has a full schedule ahead of them with Camp Snoopy and the Mystery Lodge possibly being re-implemented back into the attractions list. We'll see what happens. What do you guys think Cedar Fair Six Flags could do to help the efficiency and the guest experience in the park in 2024? Let me know. Let's talk.